It's Papino, it's Papino. I'm off to get the bread, I'm off to get the money. But this live this morning is in dedication of somebody named Jason Gotti. He was in my comments the other day, and he said something that was, whatever he said. He said something. But in the reference of if Alpo was involved with the preacher thing, why preacher never said Alpo's name. One, this could be a 3-part series. And this is what I mean about listening to narratives that people create, right? All right. Preacher was not trying to get the death penalty. Out of all the bodies and cold cases that preacher had closed, these weren't, like I said before, mailmen. These were people that was in his life. You know what I'm saying? People that was hustling, people that was... So, him telling on a bunch of dudes that killed a bunch of guys that was in the streets is totally different than preacher killing a mailman randomly or being a serial killer and killing 80 females. You can't tell your way out of that, right? But the one thing that preacher knew was no kids. At least no kids, let it be known, because when you put the kids involved, the district attorney looks at it totally different. The people looking at it different. You're not going to let a man not get fried because he told on 16 bodies. But part of the 16 bodies he told on is a kid, which was Donnel. Now, you love listening to mixtapes. You love listening to DVDs. Go top of the top. You love listening to the mixtapes, the DVDs, the remixes. We respect it. We salute it. We understand it. But if you're paying attention and not being a fan of the content, and I say this all the time, don't be a fan of the content. Here it goes. You listen to everybody when they speak, right? Alpo got caught in the early 90s. He claims little Gary killed Rich Porter. We get it, right? He tells the story of why Rich Porter died, and that he killed Rich Porter on his way of trying to retrieve Donnel. This is Alpo's story from the feds. Right? Let's talk about it. Early 90s. The feds wind up having a situation where they snatched Preacher up. Preacher began to tell. For some reason, they ran down on Apple. Apple was a conspirator in Preacher's case. Taking this nice and slow. Good morning. Was a conspirator in Preacher's case. So now the cop, the New York State investigator, not federal agent, but investigator, was the same cop that was involved with the Donnel Porter kidnapping. All right. And Apple's appeal, Alpo name doesn't come up one time. So you're sitting here telling me that this cop did not come to Apple and go, yo, Alpo admitted to the situation with Donnel, that he killed them over the situation. That doesn't come up. So the only time that the world found out that Alpo killed Rich Porter is when he said it on a K-Slate mixtape. You know what I'm saying? Again, listen to this closely. The reason why I most likely Preacher did not say, I knew about the Donnel passing away, is because he didn't want to be tied to that. And see what happened? Apple tried to tie him to that. But I'm gonna tell you what saved Preacher. What saved Preacher was the cop, the investigator. Now Preacher's name popped up, but believe me, when they kidnapped Donnel and they heard the feds in the street, Preacher them fell back. Now we can't make no moves, throw phones away, because I know because Preacher ain't a fool. They're gonna blame us first. Even if he did have his hand in it, they're gonna blame us first. Am I right? So it's common sense. If you're hearing it, Donnel gets snatched. There's 1,000 cops looking for him. His brother's a big-time hustler, allegedly, and they get the feds involved. You think Preacher's still running around snatching dudes up in the Sugar Hill section of Harlem? Do you think that he's still running around crazy? Then another version of what Alpo said. He said that Crusader Rob allegedly said that he heard that Preacher did it. He told Rich that, right? So why wouldn't Rich Porter, who doesn't need Alpo and his infamous goons from D.C., go to 183rd and Davidson Avenue and go put that work in. You know your little brother ain't coming back alive. The third thing that sort of scares me is that when he asked AZ voice, he said, Rich said, does the voice sound familiar? AZ said, nah. That was weird. So everything depended on, hey, did that voice sound familiar on the phone? If AZ would have said, yeah, you know what I'm saying? That was the only creepy part about all this. Was that when he asked A, so think about it, if he asked A that, Donnel couldn't come back alive. Because you know he didn't ask Donnel, whose voice you heard? He just said, Uncle Apple. Again, let's stop being fans of what people say and pay attention. See, when you start paying attention, you begin to go, wait a minute, it has to make sense here. Again, Apple got snatched up in 9-5. Poe got snatched up in the early 90s. You know what I'm saying? He's saying, yo, he went to go drop some bread off. I killed him because of this situation, right? But he's the only one that knows this secret. His only beef with AZ out of all this on the mixtape. Remember, yo, why your man Kevin Childs keeps saying that work for you? He doesn't care that nobody calls him a rat bastard. He doesn't care that nobody calls him a snake. Only thing he cares about is, hey, why you telling dudes I work for you for? So, am I right? So that has to make sense, right? Only thing you cared about was that you don't care that you told on somebody, like you felt like Green Perry deserved to get all those bodies. You know what I'm saying? But the only thing you cared about was, yo, hey, why you telling your man I work for you? Again, but this ain't an Alpo story. This is just dealing with common sense. Now, why Alpo says he doesn't want to be involved with that situation is because I'm gonna be all the way 100 with you. You don't want to have Alpo. He claims he's not trying to get the death penalty. So why would he say, "Yeah, I knew about the Donnel situation," or whatever? I was in contact. Who knows? I'm staying far away from this. But the only two people, logically, that was involved with Donnel that we can honestly speak about is AZ, not AZ, but Rich Porter and Apple. I'm not Rich Porter, Alpo and Apple. Remember, Apple was sitting there when he heard about the 30 keys. Right? Am I right? Apple was in the living room. 30 keys, what? And the only person who knew he had the 30 keys was Alpo. You know what I'm saying? The only two people that knew behind the scenes about 30 kilos of cocaine was Apple and Poe. Why Poe? Because Rich told Poe. You know what I'm saying? So let's deal with common sense, get out our feelings, let's stop being fans, let's stop going, yo. That has to make sense. Preacher, only part to this was, he knew his name was going to get caught in the mega mix, so he ain't stupid. Preacher played his part. Nigga, I want my bread, Fred. You know what I'm saying? But that's just an opinion. That's not a fact. We can't say that we can't spit here and say that's a fact because we don't throw bullshit on people's name. But one thing that Preacher, the killer of all killers, said, I ain't kill no kids, man. The killer of all killers. The killer of all killers said, the man who had hustlers, killers running down the block. The man who had dudes running down the block. The man who's extorting guys for over $10,000 a week. The man who's accused of killing the who's who of Harlem. Now I got nothing to do with the kids, man. Apple put his name in that. Apple. So again, why would Preacher sit there and go, yeah, Alpo did that? When all along you got Apple. Who you know what I'm saying? I'm not tying myself in that. Y'all, you know what's so funny? I think some people just like to talk. You know what I'm saying? Some people just like to talk. And when they talk nonsense. They try to make sense of their nonsense. Why would Preacher put himself in a situation as saying, yo, I know about the Donnel situation, when he's not trying to get the death penalty? What did Apple do? Apple got caught and just started telling stories. The only reason why Preacher didn't get that body because the police was like, nah, Preacher name came up, but he ain't do it. We was watching Preacher. Do y'all not think that the police was not watching on 83rd and Grand Concourse? Do y'all think that when this little boy said, because remember, Preacher was the extortionist of Harlem. So y'all don't think that you don't think the FBI and the police first thought him? You know what I'm saying? Because that's his line of work, kidnapping, right? You don't think the streets will say, yo, it must have been Preacher. You know what I'm saying? So they watching him like, nah, they fell back. You know what I'm saying? Preacher knew that. And anybody that was involved with that knew that if Preacher was to do it, he'd have to get his money that same day because he didn't know that the police was watching him. That's just common sense. If Preacher would have did it, right? If he would have done it, he would have had to get his money that day because he know the police is watching him because he was the black hand of Harlem. You know what I'm saying? But Apple knew about them 30 bricks. And he knew the last person that was with Rich. And when by him knowing who the last person who was with Rich, that's when he pulled his squeeze play. And that's when most likely he involved Preacher. Yo, we need to retrieve some of that. You know what I'm saying? It went wrong. You ever thought about what Apple said in his appeal? Read John Porter. Read his appeal. He said that Preacher them shot him and left him for dead. So he was a fuck up. You hear me? Johnny was a known fuck up. You hear me? I don't think he robbed A. I don't think he robbed A. Because A wasn't, y'all, see, A, they had cars and all this other shit, but like A said, he was getting enough money to be happy. He wasn't on Preacher radar. Preacher radar was people like Rich Porter and, do names like that, like the names and names. He looked at as AZ as that's rich little man. You know what I'm saying? Most like that's rich little man. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get. He might have been in his pocket, but he looked at that nigga like I'm gonna get crumbs from him. You see what happened? They kicked open his doors. You see what he said? I wasn't even making no money like that. I was making some money, but I wasn't getting it like that. Rich was getting all the money. His mouth. That's what he said on Vlad. This is AZ voice. This is what AZ said on Vlad. I wasn't even getting it like that. Rich was getting it. So if Preacher was extorting somebody, he would have been extorting Rich. He'd have been in Rich's pocket. You know what I'm saying? When you hear names like Fritz and them being low, they was being low from law enforcement, but they was being more low because of people like Preacher. You don't want your name flying across Preacher's desk. You know what I'm saying? What? Who? Huh? Get him. That's how the game went. When you're known as like a type of crime, being an extortionist, a killer, and all this other craziness, I'm gonna tell you something. Who did the police want the first? You don't think the police was surrounded around 183rd in the Grand Concourse after they called the feds in? They thought they had Preacher this time. Preacher fell all the way back. Salute, Harlem Double. You know what I'm saying? So somebody goes, Jason Gotti, this show dedicated to you, and like you said, no pun intended, I'm telling you common sense and logic. You watched the DVDs, you heard the mixtapes. The man Poe claimed that he told on Little Gary that he had to tell on all known and unknown in the early 90s. How come nobody knows this? Even the police that sat next to this guy Apple and said, listen, Alpo name doesn't come up in those conversations. The cop that investigated, the investigator for that Preacher situation that was talking to Apple, Alpo never came up. That was the same cop that was on the scene of the kidnapping. How doesn't he go, yo, Alpo said that, boom, 30 keys, you were sitting right there. How do Apple sit there and tell a story about 30 keys and how he sat there and how he kidnapped his nephew and Alpo name don't come up in the conversation? That's the issue. And Alpo name don't come up in the situation. He threw all that Preacher. What saved Preacher was that cop. Nah, son. And the federal officers that was watching Preacher, like, nah, he ain't do that shit. We wiretapped the whole neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? He ain't do that one. Because Preacher know when you kidnap kids, everybody know that. Even the mob know that. Once you start snatching kids, that bring them alphabet boys out. They know that. They know that. It's like some of you dudes that's my age that jump on here and be talking crazy. Y'all definitely Was it in the streets? I'm tired of y'all trying to talk for the streets. I'm tired of y'all trying to create these weird narratives. You're not from my blocks, man. Common sense is common sense. Exactly. Common sense is common sense, man. Some things just gotta be common sense, right? Apple sitting there handing 30 keys. Yo, son gave him 30 bricks. Do you think Apple sat there and said, wait a minute, this is my jukes? And this is gonna work with, and I know the last person that was with him was this nigga? Do you really think Apple sat there like an idiot? Exactly. Do you really sit there? Do you really sit there and really believe that Apple sat there and let Rich Porter go somewhere with 30 bricks, and knowing that the last person with him was Alpo, because that's what Rich said. I'm about to link up with Poe. Gangsta Lou said the same thing. Yo, the last time I seen Rich, he was with Poe. Do you honestly, truly believe that Apple let that sit? The only way Apple was gonna get something off of that was he had to involve Preacher. He had to give Preacher that call. You know what I mean? That's the only person that I had Poe give up what he had to give up, even if it was 2-3 bricks. A said 30. Poe said 10. So what happened to the 20? You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't a Preacher's thing. Because that was a sloppy kidnapping. That's not how Preacher worked. Preacher just snatched you off the street. He did not see Preacher would have never did nothing to Donnel. He just would have snatched Rich Porter up. You know what I'm saying? Why kidnap your brother? There's no long-term money in this. Preacher was into the extortion game. That was his game. He got his money off of extortion and robbing you. You know what I'm saying? He got money off of going on your block telling you, listen, next week better have 20,000 for me. That was how Preacher got his bread. And when you didn't pay, he snatched you off the street. Him taking Donnel for 500,000. You see what he did to Bobby Brown. Y'all see what he did to Bobby. You see what he did to Bobby? Bobby only, let me tell you something. Whitney Houston signed a $100 million record deal with Clive Davis. He knew we could get 250,000 from him. Oh yeah, Apple definitely did that. He had him kidnapped, but he ain't killed him. You know what I'm saying? He killed him. He kidnapped him. But yeah, he got a piece of that 30. He got a piece of that 30 that Ace said, because he sat there and heard the story. He sat there and heard, yo, Rich got 30 bricks from Fritz. What? I'm gonna tell you who had all the stress in the world after that though. Fritz. He had every stick-up kid in America, Russia, Europe, running through Force. Exactly. He'd have been got him. He didn't have to snatch Donnel up. He'd have snatched Rich up. because it's benefiting him. Because it's benefiting the Rich Porter. It's benefiting the Preacher that I scare you up. And you pay me money to me take your brother. You're going to pay me after I took your brother. See, Bobby Brown's a fucking R&B singer. This is a hit it. That's a hit it or quit it. I know that when we get him, that's 250,000. Fuck Bobby. You know what I mean? But what Preacher did is, he did some things to Bobby that Bobby can't talk about. So, all right, fair exchange, no robbery. We kidnapped you, and whatever I did to you, you're never going to come clean about that shit anyway, and life goes on. Now, nobody's talking bad about Rich, you know what I'm saying? Rest in peace, Rich Porter, though, you know what I'm saying? Definitely, rest in peace, Rich, you heard? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Rich Porter was just a guy that got caught up in the game and was around the wrong type of dudes. Like I said, AZ said this on Vlad, right? Yo, this is the DVDs and all that. Rich asked him, yo, does the voice sound familiar? There's a reason why he asked him that, bro. There's a reason why he asked him that. Y'all think about what I just said. Go to Vlad, and when he goes, yo, Rich said, does the voice sound familiar? All AZ had to do is say, yeah, and who knows, Donnel might be alive. Coward, you know what I'm saying? Coward mentalities, man. Some niggas don't really love you, man. Some people like to see people suffer. With that being said, I love y'all. I'm gonna holler at y'all later, players.